Welcome to the Interprofessional Space podcast, where the spirit of inquiry meets healthcare collaboration. In our podcast, we discuss all things interprofessional education. According to the World Health Organization, interprofessional education is when students from at least two healthcare professions learn about, from, and with each other to improve health outcomes and enable effective collaboration. Welcome back to the Interprofessional Space podcast. This is part 2 of our conversation with Dr. Jaap Reinders. In part 1, we unpacked foundations of extended professional identity theory and why collaboration can be challenging even with the best intentions. In this episode, we pick up from there and focus on practical implications for interprofessional learning and culture change. Let's get started.
One of the things that Susie and I specifically wanted to ask you about was the extended professional identity theory kind of within the context of simulation, interprofessional education, but specifically simulation. Can you talk just a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think simulation is very interesting for more than one reason. Of course, also patient safety is one of the arguments, but also efficiency. We have a lot of people to train. Sometimes also, if we look at practitioners, there's not a lot of time. Can we create the circumstances that we require? So I think it's more than one objective. There are two things in simulation that are interesting. Well, first of all, one of the theoretical propositions was that there should be identity triggers specifically related to interprofessional identity. So this means that we should be able to introduce certain stimuli that are meaningful, cues during simulation, which will result in different behaviors. But just as we discussed before, that there's a kind of a complexity because it's a two-way street. It's reciprocal. So it's the brain environment interaction. So if this brain already contains a very strong interprofessional identity, then of course you would expect much more interprofessional behaviors. So then those cues, they activate. So we have tested this. We have tested this. Ruud Kuipers from. It's very great to work with him because he has a good comprehension also of psychological theory as regard to speaking up. That's interesting. Speaking up, human factors. With regard to interprofessional collaboration, of course, this is also a very important topic because error is human. And you don't want to be afraid to talk, because it's also for patient safety. So what he investigated, and we use this also for simulation. So it's is if we he made an experiment where we had two conditions of several mixed profession groups. And because of speaking up, the identity triggers introduced were conversational topics. So the hypothesis was, based on the theoretical propositions of extended professional identity theory, was that if the mixed profession groups have generally strong interprofessional identity that was measured with extended professional identity scale with ISPACe, then they should speak up more. They should share more ideas. That would be the idea. The hypothesis. And this is exactly what we saw without exception. There were two topics. One topic didn't do anything, or not really, even though it seems to be related with interprofessional collaboration. It wasn't. There was no difference between the groups. But when there was a difference between those conditions, there were several mixed profession groups. But when it was always that the condition where mixed professional groups had a generally strong interprofessional identity, they would generate, well, I believe up to more than 10% more ideas. Yeah, and it's really exciting.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
So that's measurable.
it's
Wow.
measurable. Yeah, it's
Oh
really,
my
yeah.
goodness.
Yeah, so it's very exciting. It also raises new questions.
Of course it does.
Yeah, well, the thing is, of course, if it is theoretically understandable or logical that some identity triggers are learned, some are obvious. They are they are probably, we have universal things because that's the definition of interprofessional collaboration. But it is plausible that there are identity triggers, other kinds of interprofessional identity triggers to be discovered that may be more related to local situation, to the local context, maybe even culture, but we don't know. So Lindsay van Dam and Sherry Price of Dalhousie University, together with Ruud Kuipers and myself, we are now also want to investigate. They have also qualitative research. Therefore, qualitative research is also very important to pinpoint when people feel the cue that they should collaborate interprofessionally. And once we can identify this. You also need cross-cultural, cross-country research to further determine this, because then you know what the common denominators are.
Mhm.
Just like measurement invariance for psychometrics, you should also do that cross-border. So we also need, we cannot do without cross-cultural research, cross-country research. So there's a lot of things we don't know.
So
Yeah.
that I 100% agree, and I think that's one of the things. Jan, you and I, and Anne as well, that are in a lot of international groups and interprofessionally. You've just started or been a part of starting the Dutch IPE network that's now formed, or was
Dutch-speaking
that
countries.
Dutch-speaking countries?
Yeah.
How is that then? Can you talk to us a little bit about your international work and how you get into that? How do you start working? This is what puzzles people a lot of times. Where do I start? If I want to work with someone internationally, how do I start doing that?
Oh, it's of vital importance to have those kind of networks, for more than one reason. Also, of course, you can create the conditions to develop a shared social identity, which because you
That's
need
right.
the social emotional connectedness. So that is
Right.
universal. And of course, you already have that mindset, but the identity group has a different purpose. So that network, it really helps. Just becoming a member of it, and learning, and like Confucius stated, I like the Chinese philosopher who said, true knowledge is knowing what you know and knowing what you don't know. So then you find out that people sometimes, even though you could not imagine yourself, think differently about certain things. I had discussions with some years ago with a student who claimed that Dutch people do not have a culture. Uh, that is not true. You just don't know. You can only understand if you meet and compare, and then you understand that you're completely different. So yeah, uh,
Wow.
yeah,
That's a kind of
it's
a
so
bold
helpful.
statement to say that you don't have a culture. That's
That's
interesting.
I was surprised. I
You
was
say
even
Yeah.
Dutch?
surprised. How do you know? Well, everybody has, there was an interpretation. Everybody has certain traditions, etc., etc. Well, I have, with regard to Dutch culture, let's be honest, Dutch are quite direct. So I have learned a lot just with international contacts. I have learned a lot. And also many of the foreign students I've been teaching, they say without a doubt, Dutch are the most direct. It's most direct culture in the world. and they were from around the world. So
Wow.
I guess that's I could any kind of habit, behavior, the way you think. Uh, I like certain things because of we call ourselves kaaskop, and kaaskop is a cheesehead. Yes,
A
when you're very
cheesehead. Wait a minute. I thought those were football fans from Green Bay.
Yeah,
No,
we're
you're
talking
a
about
football fan?
well,
yeah.
the Dutch
Sorry.
Yeah, the
American
Dutch.
reference.
oh yeah, yeah. Well, in the Netherlands, we have cheeseheads, and cheeseheads are more like we're all about cheese. In the Netherlands, we like cheese, so I guess that's the reason. But yeah, I think I'm quite prototypical Dutch. Um, so Dutch always have a very short introduction. Well, that's a habit, isn't it?
Hmm.
Extremely short introductions normally. Yeah, yeah, okay. Well, this is my name, this is my job, this is my country. Well, shall we move on?
Right. Let's get to work. Let's go do some things.
Yeah,
Right.
that's yeah. So everybody, of course, has habits and a lot of things. And when you work together, this comparison, well, it's so um, you know insightful.
Hmm.
Um, um, just getting in contact. So I think it's really inspiring. I was invited to do a keynote in South Africa at the end of August at the Afripan conference. It's the end of August, the beginning of September, but the end of August I will go there. And I had conversations with Gérard Felice and also Luzanne, also from Afripen and from the network. This also because of the network, but this also made me understand something vitally different from those, African cultures, because all those you have a lot of diversity in Africa. African
Hmm.
cultures are very diverse, like all countries. Everybody has their culture, but there's something very specific. At least two things that are very specific to Africa. I think and I learned that because I talked with other people, because I got in contact with other people, and now because of that, the how we approach our environment, how we adapt, is because of those kind of contact, because of that, the network, because of the research, you have completely new way of looking at things, and I think that's really exciting. So it's the we're learning with, from, and about, and then on a very cross-cultural level.
Yeah.
It's very inspiring.
It is. It's exciting.
Yeah, yeah,
So I want
absolutely.
to I want to ask you something that I did not plan on talking about today, but
Hmm.
as we were chatting before I pushed the record button, this came up, and I would love
Yeah.
to hear more about interprofessional architecture. It's just
Oh,
such a fascinating idea to me.
oh yes, yes. Well, it started out with Veronica O'Carroll of St Andrews University in Scotland, because we met in Switzerland for a partnership symposium in Winterthur in near Zurich, and we talked, and of course this is also how things uh, uh, turn out. Sometimes you don't know what happens. So Veronica and I met, and she came up with the idea at breakfast that a physical environment should also affect how we behave, and of course that's logical. There are already studies about the healing environment
Mhm.
for patients. So it kind of took off from there. So then we talked about, we had several meetings, still are busy with this. Um, and so that was very interesting. I thought interprofessional architecture, that is something new, because always looking at social conditions and etc. But it's also, of course, it's infrastructure. What can you or can you not do? And if you look at identity behavior congruence, then behavior, you may be motivated. It's just like, again, if you look at the metaphor of the house, you
Mhm.
may want to go inside the house, but if the door is locked and you don't have a key, you have a problem.
Mhm.
Unless you're a burglar, maybe, but I'm not sure if that is. Let's not overdo the metaphor, but you know, so if you have, so the house is like represents the infrastructure. Is it possible that you can display the actions you want to display? In this case, interprofessional. So that was kind of the basis that we talked about. So we talked about a lot of also theories and how they can be combined and etc. And one of the things was that extended professional identity theory would at least be one of them, because that's the cue as related to our mind, or how we think and what our drive is. So motivational part of it. And then I talked with this. That was also coincidentally with someone I worked with before. He was from a rehabilitation center in another province. He's Dr. Joost Hurkmans, and he's from Revalidatie Friesland. Very, very nice guy. It's always nice to collaborate with people who are also nice, which helps social conditions. Yeah, so we collaborated already before, and we were invited to do a podcast about interprofessional collaboration in practice. And tell more about. And we had to wait in the studio, and then we talked about, and so what are you doing? You know how it goes, and then there's, oh, we just had a nice conversation with Veronica O'Carroll, and oh, what it's about? Well, this and this, and he said, oh wow, that's a great timing. What do you call? What do you say? What do you say? What's the great timing? Well, they're going to build a very big like rehabilitation hospital for 4 organizations near directly connected to another hospital in the capital city of the province, Friesland. That's the neighboring province. So I said, "Oh, that sounds interesting." So that's how the ball, how it continues, and this is
Mhm.
illustrates how good it is to talk with one another and have contact and have
Yeah.
networks. So they, so he said, "Yeah, well, we are in the middle of designing this." So they're two architects and they're managers and a consultant who are working on this, and it's highly complex. It's highly complex, and it's very strict. It has because you don't want to. It's there's so many like sub projects that they're very strict deadlines. This is
Well,
not
time is
what
money, right?
time is money. Time is
Time is
money.
money.
So we oh, light is going out here. Uh, now we have a couple of months later, we had discussions with management of those organizations, and we convinced them that interprofessional collaboration is the way to go, and that this is the time. If you look at the physical environment, that would be
Yeah.
interesting to study this, and that we can make interprofessional architecture possible. So they agreed, even though they were the one of those managers, or one of the directors, was very technical. He was an engineer, he is an engineer, and so I was actually kind of surprised because this is like really, kind of a social science thing. But he thought it was very specific. That's what he liked. If it's specific enough that you can measure it and you can plan it, that's good. So
Okay.
so so we
Right.
did. So Joost and I, we did observations, and we also had some months later we had the survey with evidence-informed architectural characteristics. So we used that literature. We quantified this, and we also asked people to complete the questionnaire, measuring their interprofessional identity. And what the interesting thing is that we found very logical relationships. We also thought it would be not everything was correlated, but afterwards you can actually understand that it was really logical. It is not about what exactly we do. So there were also part of those architectural functions of rooms was that you can do your work as a nurse or you can do your work as a physiotherapist. That is function related. It was not related to the function per se. It's on what kind of nursing actions or physiotherapy action or whatever action was required. It wasn't related to that at all. It was related to social spatial characteristics. It was related to workflow, which is of course also, if you work interprofessionally, does it align? Is it efficient? Is it aligned, or do I have to walk a couple of 100 meters? um, so it was about we saw several. I cannot share too much. It's not published yet, but we kind
Good.
of we
The
kind of yeah,
teaser.
because yeah, teaser. We found a couple of very logical characteristics, and it doesn't mean, of course, that any space can really change your interprofessional identity. It cannot. It can enable, because that's what we found. And this is very much also aligned with the observations of the mixed profession user groups. So we independently observed them. We looked at also at statements and how they looked at the at those different spaces, the length of corridors, um, really aligned with the quantitative analysis. So we were really excited. It's very logical.
I have
It's
a
very
question.
logical. Yeah.
You said it can enable, the space can enable the interprofessional collaboration. Did you just say
Yeah, or
that?
facilitate.
Or
Maybe that's a better
or
word.
facilitate? Can it
Yeah,
push in
yeah,
the
yeah.
other direction if it's poorly designed? Were you able to measure that it then could also negatively influence, or was that
I
sort
think
of just not
it
quantifiable?
can. Well, there are a couple of characteristics that we found,
Hmm.
and it's more like one of them might be related to, and this is kind of a new word, interprofessional deprivation. So if
What?
you have like, yeah, like if you have, if it limits the amount, if it limits the possibility or obstructs the possibility to see one another, to
Hmm.
interact also informally, to have
Hmm.
that cup of coffee together.
Hmm.
Um, um, this was really
Interesting.
related. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not like because you need the entitativity. You need actually four conditions for formation, as theorized by APIT, by extended professional identity theory. First one is entitativity, which of course proximity is part of. That's one of the antecedents of. So it's very logical. Whether or not you can see each other interactivity is also an antecedent of the observation of entitativity. But then also you have belonging, and belonging is interprofessional belonging is also about, are you accepted and do you want? Because you can observe a group and you think, oh, this is a high entitativity, but I think you have enough groups in mind you do not want to be a part of. Yes. So the second condition of belonging, certain groups I will and never be a part of. I'm not mentioning those groups, but you can understand just thinking about it. You don't want to belong to certain groups. Yes. And that's a personal opinion. There were people, of course, because the groups exist, there are people who do want to belong. Okay. The third condition is, of course, is positive social contact. And if this increases, then you have the cumulative effect of attitudes as explained by intergroup contact theory
Hmm.
of Alport. And then have and there if you so if therefore you have the long-term strategy, because this is related to effective commitment, and then you have finally but not least, because that's also very complex, the interprofessional beliefs. If you look at this from a neurological or neuropsychological point of view, is very complex. social cognitions. You need the default mode network, which comprises a large part of your brain, et cetera, your salience network, etc. So you need a lot of structures, brain structures for that. So, however, there are studies also outside the Netherlands that found, for instance, I believe also in Hong Kong, where they did find that you can change interventional identity, but then look at the dimensions. Some interventions, they will affect the belonging, interventional belonging, some more interventional commitment, some more interventional beliefs, or a combination. So there's a variation between that. So what makes this interventional education effective on a combination or a specifically isolated dimensions of interventional identity? And because there are dimensions, they are correlated. Thus, they will increase, be related to an increase of interventional identity and therefore also motivation. So there's much more variation within interventional education we need to learn. So that's very exciting. Yeah. And with regard to interventional architecture, then the flow also. Are you able? Who's your team, or who can be your team? Because that's also ad hoc. That's also the reality. So this also makes interventional identity more feasible, also practically, because just like your competence, you bring it anywhere you are. So relatively strangers, if you put strangers with strong interventional identity in a mixed professional group, they will perform better. They will generate more ideas. They will share more questions. Topic control is no longer of one profession. So that's very promising. But it also shows that every answer results in many new questions.
Right.
So but it's very, there are more questions than answers. I think this what we have found and replicated so far also emphasizes that we need each other's perspectives. That to further understand, it is impossible to do this alone. So it's not just about practice itself and how we collaborate. It's also at a meta level. So we need to leverage each other and understand each other's frame of reference also from that point of view. And I think there's a lot to do. I would say at least there are many more priorities. One of them is to further understand identity triggers. Identity triggers, what kind of identity triggers there are. There's still a focus on that. There's a lot to learn. Both universal identity triggers as related to interventional identity, as well as more localized, contextualized, cultural. Another thing is strategic. If we also embrace the idea that it is of course about the patient, but let's be honest, it's also about healthcare providers. It's about their mental health and well-being as well. It's about self-determination, whether or not people enable you or facilitate your self-determination, because there's a reason why you are trained. There's a reason why you're an expert. So this is strategically and the most amazing strategic step that we have to make is that IPE as a long-term strategy to consolidate an interprofessional culture which can be and should be supported, and which is also aligned with other outcomes. And maybe some people are more interested in those outcomes. That's not a problem, as long as we have a win-win-win-win-win. Cost effectiveness is part of that. But then we have to understand that interprofessional collaboration is and should be also collective adaptation. And that is almost Darwinistic, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it pushes people outside of their what I think normally is our comfort zone. And I think
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It is, and that's why we have an amygdala that sometimes works against us.
Oh, goodness.
But it gets easier as you do it. I think it's like just
Oh,
like reaching
yeah,
out to people. It's
Right.
like
The
the first
skill.
time you do it, it's hard, and then it gets easier and easier. You know.
yeah. You see that with students also.
Mhm.
Hmm.
I bet that we do not see a lot of differences with their facial expressions at time zero
Hmm.
when they first are I bet you have the same experiences. And you see those students and they don't feel comfortable with all those strangers, and they have never met
Yeah.
those different professional groups, and then you can see change.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exciting. Okay, so we're going to move to the pivot questions. These are a series of questions inspired by a TV show called Inside the Actor Studio, and they're just kind of fun, just quick answers. You don't need to, I mean, you're welcome to, but you don't need to give a long detail. Just sort of like just a little snippet from your brain. And you're welcome to skip any of them that you don't want to answer. But we
Okay.
found them to be kind of not just entertaining, but also kind of insightful and inspiring. So, first question, you ready?
Yes.
Okay. What is one thing about the work that you do that you wish other people understood? That just other team members, just like if you could give them the short version, because we all have assumptions and misconceptions about each other's work. What's one thing you
Well, the
wish
first
people
thing,
knew?
yeah. Uh, ooh, yeah, that's a good question. Well, they, well, uh, I do have to think about a cult movie. Um, Assumption is the mother of all fuck ups. So if people assume less, that would be nice.
It's brilliant. That is brilliant. I don't think we can
Yeah.
use it as a title for the podcast episode, but it's
I don't
brilliant.
think so. I don't think so.
Love it.
Yeah,
Okay. So,
yeah.
do you have a favorite word, and what is it?
Favorite word? Wow.
Any language will do. That's fine.
Oh, vanskelig.
What's
Okay.
that?
Uh,
What is it?
vanskelig. That's Norwegian for difficult.
Could you spell it for me? I'm so,
Whoa.
what,
I
hmm,
believe Vanskij. I believe. Vanskelig?
love it. That's awesome. Thank you. What is the profession other than your own that you would like to attempt?
Archaeology.
Ooh, ooh, fun answer.
Why?
Why? I love history, and maybe it's also related to we don't understand why we behave today because of how we behaved yesterday.
Hmm.
So, or at least yesterday in a symbolic sense. And it is not about words; it's about objects and their meaning. And I like to I have two boys. I'm a father, and they're a bit older now, so soon to be 15 and soon to be 18. And when my boys were young, I made treasure hunts based on theoretic on historical sites. So we went all across the north of the Netherlands, and they had to interpret crests and go underground and find a treasure at the end.
Oh,
Sounds
So
I
fun.
yeah,
love it.
Love that.
a kind of Indiana Jones experience for young children.
Mm. You're going to be a great grandfather for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
that
So,
was always fun.
What is a sound or a noise that you love?
Laughter.
That's a great choice too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Is there a career that you imagined doing when you were a child? So what did you think you want to grow up to be?
Oh, well, I had three possibilities simultaneously. I wanted to be an army officer,
Okay.
but I'm too tall. So I didn't. Professionally, probably I could win, but no. Well, so I wanted to be an army officer, or I wanted to be a scientist, or I wanted to be an inventor. One of those.
I'm going
Okay.
to gently point out that you invented a theory and you do an awful lot of research. I think you've got 2 out of 3.
Yeah, well, okay. Yeah.
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 Last question. What is a book that you're currently reading or that you would recommend?
Oh, what I'm currently reading. That's a good idea. Um, I read a lot of books. uh,
Do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite book that you?
well, I started again, and because I did that a couple of years ago, but I thought it was just also historically interesting. Is the work of Niccolo Machiavelli,
Hmm,
Il Principe,
light reading.
but then the
Light
English
reading.
version.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
that is because he had. I thought it was interesting to read it again because that was the first book on how people address power, deal with power in the Renaissance. The very first book on power, and the strange anomaly in that book, which I still remember, but there's much more to learn from that. Is he said it doesn't matter what you do. There are different ways to use power, but at the end, and that's the strange thing, at the end it said, but you should have one ideal. You should have at least be. So he kind of believed that the means to an end.
Hmm.
But then he had this strange idea that at the same time you cannot do without an ideal.
Okay.
So even
Wow.
Niccolo Machiavelli, some people think it was an awful man, but it's also because a lot of people don't like power, even though they're surrounded by it and use it
Mhm.
themselves. I think power is, of course, something that is human. It really depends on how you use it. As long as there's influence, it better be good.
Yeah, and, a lot of we talk about hierarchies and
Mhm.
structure, and that
Yeah,
so much of that is around power and how people.
yeah,
Yeah, so I
yeah,
yeah.
and yeah, and the ways and the because he talks about strategies and tactics. I
Mhm.
think that's
Mhm.
also fascinating.
Yeah.
It's very
Yeah,
insightful.
weirdly, it's one of those books that like I feel like every decade of my life I've picked it up, but I haven't done it in my 40s yet, so maybe I need to pull it back
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's back
Yeah.
on the read list. There you
I
go.
know.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Reinders, I want to thank you so much. My brain hurts a little bit from all the thinking, and I'm going to need to reflect a lot, but I also haven't laughed like this in a while. So this has been so much fun. Thank you for being our guest
Yeah,
today.
Yes.
thank
Well,
you
thank you
so
for your
much.
hospitality. And yeah, and it's really great also to join because I'm following you on the social media, and then it's
Wonderful.
always
Thank
it's
you.
always good. Yeah, both of you, and it's always good to now we're talking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's
absolutely.
wonderful. I
Yeah.
really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And we can't wait to see what you've got coming up next, especially around the
Right?
professional architecture and everything else that you've got going
Yes.
on. So I think
It's
I
gonna be.
love reading your work. It
Thank you
always
so much.
stretches me.
Yeah.
So before we sign off, we want to
Yeah.
remind everyone, whether you're a student, a practitioner, or an educator, the work that you do is important and it can be stressful, but you are not alone. Please take care of yourself. Let's look out for each other, and we hope you can join us again soon.
Thanks for joining us on this journey to better interprofessional education and collaboration. If you found today's conversation valuable, please like, subscribe, and share the episode with colleagues.